Good morning. So what we're looking at here is a tweet from Fellow Rights. I believe he's an Irish fella, but his stuff is interesting enough. He puts up good stuff, right? Good stuff to chew on and think on. And he's talking about the elections just gone, and I suppose crunching the numbers, really, you know. And he's offering a different, or not a different perspective, but a wider perspective or a numerical perspective, really, on it, right? Which grounds it in reality. So people before profit have lost 30% of their seats. The Greens lost 91% of their seats. Social Democrats are up 50%, Labour up 33%. Right? Aintu increased their seats by 100%. Independent Ireland increased by 100%. And he's saying the New Right got over 60,000 votes, which is more than the Aviva's capacity. And he's saying the three parties, like the main parties, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, all had to talk tough on immigration, which would have been impossible in 2020. Change is slow then fast, right? And it's spot on as well. And something that I kind of said to a couple of people before this, before the election, was not to tie your total hope to this thing, right? Because it's not going to be a total blowout, like, you know, and it was never going to be. And you can always sound like the person who's like reflecting in hindsight, going, "Ah, well, I seen all of this coming." Like, in reality, you just never know, right? But you get a feel for the way the winds have blown, the pace of it, the energy behind the thing, uh, what lens you're looking at Ireland through, and how in touch you would be with the everyday person, right? And you gauge all of that stuff, and what we're seeing is I suppose you could say it's shocking to yourself, but in terms of where we are in Ireland, is it shocking with the new introductions voting, the massive increases in these citizenship ceremonies? You factor all of that in, and you're like, you have to think: is it that? Is the vote now a fair reflection of the way Ireland is, not necessarily the way the Irish people are, but the way Ireland is as a whole, which includes the Irish people too, right? But there's different factors at play in the society we're in as well now. You know, we don't have all the facts, we don't have all the information, we don't really know how strong the devil's hand is at the moment. You know, so we can only gauge on assessing something based on the longer period, the longer duration, which allows for more gradual change, or which emphasizes more gradual change better than just looking at one instance, which would be this election, right? So you have seen a move away over the generations from the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael kind of monolith, right? Maybe opposition parties at times, and now they're bedfellows. I think they've been pushed into the bed together, right? Like, there was always a case of working. Like, these fellas all shake each other's hands back when the cameras are off and behind doors, right? This is Their hearts aren't in this, and I would struggle to remember a time when there was heart in it, right? Where people were actually in there doing their job and representing their people and stuff, and it wasn't just about managing a bureaucracy and managing the economic factory, essentially, of Ireland, right? It was a little bit more than that. But now, not, of course not. Like, right, you can just see this from the interactions with some of these people, how they present themselves, how they react to the average person, how the other average person reacts to them, that sort of thing, right? But they were forced over time into bed with each other because I would imagine their voters were waning, their voters were dying, their voters were probably becoming put off by them or disillusioned with them and walking away, or perhaps changing allegiances altogether, right? But over time, you've seen them being pushed into bed together. So when that happens, you now need another opposition. So it either comes organically, grassroots up, which I don't believe a lot of these parties can claim, at least as in their current standing, that they're still connected to those roots, if it was indeed grassroots and an organic growth that led to a new political party or the emerging of a different one, right? So now you're seeing all of these little parties like the Labour Party and Soc Dems, Social Democrats, A&T grown, all these parties. You're starting to see that because the monolith has been pushed into center stage. Like, people have seen it for what it is now. So some of these parties have always been working together, and now they're just not even giving up. They're not even pretending for the sake of government anymore to be working against each other. They're in bed with each other, right? So that's changed. You've seen a couple of people who have very, very different opinions in the Dáil now. They might not be as captivating or as capturing as you might like, or as deep or wide or whatever you want. But there's a few good things being said and done in there, right? And you can see that a little bit more. You can see people getting elected as local councillors who absolutely would not have been elected 10 years ago, right? Or 6 years ago, or whatever you want. Pick another time, right? And this is happening. You can see Twitter as well, and that it actually has an effect on the world. Not by itself, but when used in conjunction with getting out and actually speaking with people and getting amongst people and going to a protest or whatever it is, right? Standing up for something in the real world instead of just offering your thoughts of companionship and allegiance to a set of behaviors or a set of actions or principles. So there has been movement and there has been change, right? I would imagine if you had like another lockdown situation, a test of people's, not subservience, but their level of conformity, right? How much they're willing to, the Millman experiment, how much they're willing to take direction from an authority figure, even when it is blatantly detrimental to the person who's going along with it, right? I wonder, would we fail so terribly in a similar test if we had one? I don't think so. I don't think so. But I only think, right? I don't know. But you get a whiff of the wind and you get a feel for it, and you maybe imagine it out from that point, right? And you could be wrong most times, but you get a feel for things, right? So there's been change. There has been change, and there's been a movement, and it doesn't stop because of one election. The movement continues on, right? And I think part of the Irish person's makeup, part of Celtic mythology, our own mythology, kind of points to this as well, right? Even other people's perspectives on Celtic Irish people, whatever that tribe is of white people, right? That we came from, whatever the name of it is, right? There's a certain in for all in one great battle, right? One great pure show of strength, and then the winner takes all, sort of a thing. The ultimate heroic attitude, right? That sort of a thing. So when we lose a bit in the battle, we can get very, very deflated about things, because we see battles not as battles, but all conflicts as wars, right? Where it's all or nothing, and the loser has to bow their head and hold the shame for it till they die, right? Because that's the price you pay for losing, right? But I think to kind of neutralize that or to balance that out, you do need to look at the positives. Now, I'm not denying any of that stuff, but what I am, I suppose, trying to highlight here, or going to highlight here, is the fact that while a lot of people recognize that there is change, we're on the wave of it, right? And we're in the middle of it, and it's happened. It has happened. It's happening, and it will continue to happen. But along the way, what damage is going to be caused? How many lives are going to be lost? How many lives are going to be destroyed? While we wait for what? The change to become far more tangible in our views, and rigid to a degree, right? Or explosive, where people begin to get out and gather more, right? People begin to get out and create community more. And there's more of a buzz between people. There's more of a sense of family between people again, like that, because that's largely been lost in Ireland. And you can feel that walking around towns. You can feel that in a lot of places, right? People aren't, they're a little bit more in on themselves than they would have been certainly 25 years ago, 20 years ago. Um, and probably far beyond that as well. Like, I'm just talking in my lifetime as an example, but I'm sure it was, like the old thing that the older people always say, the things have been getting worse since my day. And people kind of write that off as looking at things through rose tinted glasses, which is certainly an element of it. But maybe they were right all along, right? And we've been in a long, long, long process of just a slow devolution, right? A disintegration, a demoralization, and an erosion of our sense of being, right? And our sense of community and how we wanted to live, right? And our sense of care and duty and love for other people and love for ourselves, right? And enjoying the nourishment that comes from being included and part of and looking out for and being honest with other people. All that sort of stuff has dwindled over the decades, right? But it looks like it's shifting a bit now, right? The moon waxes and wanes, right? And it looks like we are in a bit of a change here. We absolutely are, right? We absolutely are. And it's important to look at that and not get too downtrodden by these things, because there's positives to be taken from it. But there is also absolutely real world dangers and risks attached to, you might say, the continuation of certain ideologies in the government, or you can absolutely say that's what it is, right? Because I don't believe there's going to be any glaring difference fundamentally or foundationally between any Social Democrats or Fine Gael or Greens. They're all aimed in the same direction, just at a different pace, right? And they call it different things to get to the same end anyway. So stay safe, get prepared, like get informed, get involved, and begin to expand out the network, like, extend the family beyond the four walls, like, look out for each other, especially old people that might be on their own or anything like that, you know. But there's positives, things to be taken from it. And look, there's a comment. So Sinn Féin lost 22% of their 2020 vote, right? So if they're all correct, we're on the cusp of something really transformative here, because I don't think there's any of these people that have a firm handle on what's going on at the moment. Because if there was, then this election would have came and went without any real interest in it, you know, just as they always really did to a lot of people, like, you know.